youth and the law.
The Ontario Landlord and Tenant Board is a tribunal operated by the Government of Ontario that provides dispute resolution of landlord and tenant matters. Either landlords or tenants may file an application to the board. The following video is a fictitious hearing produced to educate and promote awareness of how the Landlord and Tenant Board operates.
Okay, I will now call the hearing to order. Have both parties had a chance to receive legal advice?
Yes, I met with the Tenant Duty Council before the hearing.
Tenant Duty Council are lawyers and community legal workers who can assist tenants at most landlord and tenant board locations across the province. You must be financially eligible for some types of duty council assistance. If Tenant Duty Council is available at your landlord and tenant board hearing location, you can see them before your hearing. You do not need to make an appointment, but try to arrive at least 30 minutes before your hearing. Tenant Duty Council give priority to tenants with eviction hearings.
Yes, I received advice from the Landlord Self-Help Center.
The Landlord Self-Help Center is a non-profit community legal clinic funded by Legal Aid Ontario with a mandate to support small landlords.
Who is the applicant?
I am.
You may go ahead.
If it is you that have initiated the hearing process, then you will be speaking first. This is the time to present all your information, provide documentation, and facts.
My name is Cindy Smith. I am a student at Regentparktv College. I have been a tenant at Mrs. Lee's house for about 3 months now. I first saw her ad on Craigslist for an available student apartment. The rent that we first agreed on when I moved in was $500, and I paid first and last when I moved in.
What date did you move in?
August 1st.
Does Mrs. Lee live in the house?
Yes, she lives on the main floor. I live in the basement, and we share the laundry room together.
What is your complaint today?
I am filing for harassment from Mrs. Lee.
You may proceed with your application.
Make sure you are prepared and bring in any evidence that you will need to convince the board member of your side of the issue.
So about a week after I moved in, I had 3 friends over one evening. We were all talking in normal voices, and everyone left by 11 p.m. The next morning, I received a complaint from Mrs. Lee saying that I couldn't have any more parties. And I didn't respond to that. I was very angry. But later that day, she came down and knocked on my door that separated us in the laundry room. So she was very angry that I had woken her up the night before. She said that she didn't have any troubles with her previous attendants, that this basement apartment was for quiet tenants, and she said that I couldn't have any more friends over, and said that it was non-negotiable, and went upstairs. And I thought it was very unfair.
Did she say what woke her up?
No, she did not.
Did you have music playing?
I had music playing from my iPod, but I didn't have a stereo.
What date was this?
August 9th.
Please continue.
So a week later, on August 18th, I had a friend come over after work, and then we were both just speaking very quietly. But then Mrs. Lee came downstairs and asked for my guest to leave. I respectfully tried to reason with her, but then she demanded that my guest leave, and in the end, we just both left, and I felt really humiliated. After a couple of weeks, it died down, and I thought, okay, everything had gone back to normal. But by August 31st, I received, another complaint by Mrs. Lee, and then she was asking for $550, so $50 extra for noise complaints. I thought it was unfair and I didn't pay her.
But you did pay for the 500.
Yes, I paid for the 500 because that was what we had agreed on when I first moved in. Mrs. Lee sent me extra notes afterwards asking me to pay the extra $50. I just ignored her, and then whenever she would come downstairs and knock on my door, I wouldn't answer her.
Okay. Tell me about the laundry issue.
So on September 15th, I tried to do the laundry and I saw that the washing machine was broken. So I went to the laundromat because I didn't want to have to confront Mrs. Lee. The following week, I saw Mrs. Lee using the washing machine. I thought it was fixed. But by the end of the month, I received a letter from Mrs. Lee asking me to pay for the broken washing machine, so another $150. I paid $500 the next day. I didn't pay the $150, but Mrs. Lee came back asking me for $200, $150 for the broken washing machine and the $50 for the noise complaints, or else I would be evicted.
What evidence do you have?
I have the checks for the first and last month, totaling to $1,000. I also have the checks from the last 2 months. I also have the notes that Mrs. Lee sent me, as well as the letter asking for $700. I also have the voicemails that she left and the dates and times that she visited, as well as 2 witnesses.
Do you have a lease agreement?
No, I did not sign a lease agreement when I first moved in. Mrs. Lee actually said that because I didn't sign a lease agreement, she can raise the rent whenever she wants.
Who are your witnesses?
Yes, I have my friend who was with me on August 1st related to the first incident, as well as my friend from work who was there with me when Mrs. Lee asked us to leave.
It is always better to bring witnesses than to have pictures or letters stating that something is true. These people need to be at the board on time, so make sure to communicate the date and the time with them. If they are not willing to come to the hearing, it is possible to get the landlord and tenant board to issue a summons, which would compel the witnesses to appear. However, this will take some time to complete.
My name is Alicia Lowe, and I've been friends with Cindy for about 5 years. We met in 6th grade. So on August 7th, Cindy invited me and a few other friends over to her place for a little housewarming.
What time did you and the others arrive?
So I met the others at the subway about 6:30, and we walked over to Cindy's place. So we got there about 7, and Cindy made dinner for us.
Was there alcohol involved?
We brought 2 bottles of wine as a housewarming gift, and I guess we finished them over the course of the night.
Okay. Cindy has already informed me that the music was playing. How loud was this music?
Well, Cindy didn't have a speaker or anything, so we just played it from the iPod directly.
Do you have the iPod now?
Yes, I do.
Can you play it now at the same volume level as the music was playing at the party?
It wasn't a party, it was just a few girls getting together.
My mistake. Can you play the iPod?
Sure.
How would you characterize the evening?
What do you mean?
Would you characterize the evening as loud?
No, we were very low key.
What time did you and the others leave?
So we had school the next morning, so we left about 10:30.
You're sure about that?
I am.
I will now hear from the next witness.
My name is Casey Cobb. I'm a friend of Cindy's, and we work together at a restaurant serving there. On the September the 13th, we were working a lunch shift, and it was so slow, and the manager told us at 7 o'clock we should go and close section to go to home. And then Sadie and I went for a drink, and we went over to her apartment.
What time of the day was this?
It was 6 p.m. I was there about 15 minutes when there was a knock at the door that leads to the laundry room. And Cindy answered it. Mrs. Lee was there. She just shouted at her and said that there are no guests allowed in the apartment. Cindy tried to explain that she was entitled to have guests, but Mrs. Lee just shouted at her. And then Cindy closed the door and we left.
Respondent, do you wish to cross-examine the applicant and her witness?
No.
Then you may proceed to tell her your side of the story.
I own a house on 10 Baker Street, and I renovated the basement so that I could rent to students up the street who go to the college. But I said in my ad this is a very quiet house, and I need quiet tenants. And I never had any problems before, but as soon as Cindy moved in, she had a party. Her friends kept me awake. I told her the next day that she can't have any guests over, and she slammed the door in my face. I came to the side door of the laundry room that we share, and I called her in the morning, and she hung up on me. She's had friends over on 3 separate occasions. I told her that she can't make noise or have any guests. If she wants to make noise, I'll have to raise her rent. I don't want strangers coming over, especially men, at all times of the night. Towards the end of September, I noticed that the washer wasn't working. It was working fine before Cindy used it. It cost me $150 to fix it. She needs to pay, and if she doesn't pay, she needs to move out.
Do you have any evidence?
I have the invoice from the washer repair guy and photos of her friends coming and leaving the basement.
Ms. Lee, do you have any witness?
No, I don't.
Applicant, do you wish to ask respondent questions?
Yes, I do. Mrs. Lee, is it not true that when I first moved in, we agreed that my rent was only $500 per month?
Yes, but that amount was for a quiet tenant. When you started making noise, the rent went up.
I have no further questions.
Then the applicant can make their summary statement.
I want Mrs. Lee to stop harassing me. I don't think it's unreasonable for us to have friends over, especially before 11 p.m. at night. I want her to stop leaving voicemail messages and knocking on my door and taking pictures of my friends. And I don't want her to ask me to pay for repairs that I'm not responsible for. I want her to stop, and if she doesn't, I'm asking her to give me the money that I paid her for my rent so I can move out.
I want Cindy to pay me the $200 she owes me, and there's no more guests at the house. If she doesn't pay up, she has to move.
I will review the evidence and prepare my order.
At the end of the hearing, the board member will come to a decision regarding the case. This is usually done verbally at the time of the hearing, and then mailed to you afterwards. There are times when the board member chooses not to give a decision at the time of the hearing. If that is the case, you will get a written order in the mail. If you don't get an order in the mail over the next 10 business days, then you should contact the Landlord Tenant Board by phone. If you don't agree with an order, it is possible to request a review or have the board write out the reasons for their decision within 30 days of the hearing. If you are going down this path, I suggest that you hire a paralegal or a lawyer to help you with your case.
I am finding in favor of the applicant. My findings are as follows.
All tenants have the protection of the Residential Tenancies Act, regardless of whether they have signed a written lease. A lease may be written, oral, or implied. Mrs. Lee, you are only entitled to raise the rent once every 12 months, according to the annual guideline increase. You must give your tenants 90 days notice of a rent increase in writing. You cannot arbitrarily raise the rent because of noise. The landlord is responsible for repairs in the common area of the home. You have not provided evidence to prove the washer was broken by one of your tenants. You must assume the cost for the repair. Mrs. Lee, you must not knock on the side door to your tenant's apartment without warning, except in an emergency, as that area is part of your tenant's home. You may come to the front door, but must provide written notice at least 24 hours before. The landlord must not interfere with the tenant's reasonable enjoyment of the home. Complaints about reasonable noise must stop. The tenants are allowed to have guests over as long as they are not disturbing anyone else in the home. However, the tenant should be considerate about making noise late at night. Both parties will receive written copies of the order within 1 month.